GM, everybody. Good morning. I am messaging you from the garage. The internet in the house isn't working. Starlink is now hooked up to the garage. So we're playing this game. There was a crazy storm that came through last night and messed some stuff up. So anyway, we were mobile for a minute. The satellites are rearranging themselves for my convenience. Uh, and in the meantime, GM, thanks for being
Good
here.
morning, Michael. It's always nice to have a backup.
Got backups. Remember, one of the rules is two is one, and one is none.
Right, right.
Oh boy. Okay, so while I am half doing this, we're gonna. Here we go. Okay. Well, who else do we have here? Chuck, Heidi, Ben, GM, Bill's here, GM, Vivian's robot, other Bill, GM. Yeah, I wasn't able to get the messages out, wasn't able to launch the Zoom on time. We're having a great morning though. Yeah, I didn't even know the internet wasn't working until right before this call because we don't need to use it until we get to this call. So anyway, doesn't look like that's gonna do it either. All right, I have a giant hammer there. Maybe I'll just start smashing the computer and the Starlink. No. All right, GM. Takeoff Tuesday. The Founders Live was last night. Hopefully, you got to watch that. And Matt Snyder's story about George Washington and the first national official Thanksgiving. That was a pretty interesting story. I didn't know about that. 1803, he like made a declaration that this we shall forever be a grateful nation and turned it into something official. Pretty cool. Hopefully you watched that all and that and you heard that there was an announcement about the spring E3 and how to take advantage of that. Obviously, more details coming, but last week of February. So, how many weeks away is that? We're in the last week of November. So, we got 90, less than 100 days, guys. Am I doing that right? Yeah, 100 days. So, a lot of people made a lot of money. Great. If you weren't one of them, try it again. When we were looking at the latest numbers around people losing jobs, and we know the cascade effect that happens with job loss, behind on house payments, foreclosure, and the chain effect that we're in for a very unique time in our economy. And isn't it interesting that all the blue collar people thought they were going to be replaced by robots? It turns out white collar first. So we're going to have a lot of middle class, upper middle class people that are going to be looking for a solution. Um, I think AI is fantastic when used appropriately. I think if you have a truth seeking, curious AI versus a politically correct AI, then everything will be fine. So please stop using ChatGPT, start using Grok. Learn about the plugins, learn how to get these robots to make emails for you, make messages for you, auto. I mean, we did this a couple months ago where I showed you guys how LinkedIn, you could use LinkedIn to pull leads. Anyway, we could do a deeper dive on that stuff too. But my point is, don't be afraid of AI. Learn it, for sure. Learn it. Um, but yeah, it's an amazing tool. And Bill and I and Tamara are working on a little project that, not a little project, it's going to be a record-setting project. I'll be using some AI stuff. So as that gets kicked online, we'll show you how it's working. But it's very exciting times. Very exciting times. Okay. So since I'm not able to share my screen with you, but I still have it, let's go over the self-confidence formula real quick, and then we'll jump into our trainer for the day. Sorry for the mismatched process this morning. Power outages, internet outages. What a thing. That's all right. Make the best of it, and let's make America unduped again. Okay, first, I know I have the ability to achieve the object of my definite purpose in life. Therefore, I will demand of myself persistent, continuous action towards its attainment, and I here now promise to render such action. Second, I understand that the dominating thoughts of my mind will eventually reproduce themselves in outward physical action and gradually transform themselves into physical reality. Therefore, I will concentrate my thoughts for 30 minutes daily upon the task of thinking of the person I intend to become, thereby creating in my mind a clear mental picture of that person. Third, I know through the principle of autosuggestion, any desire that I persistently hold in my mind will eventually seek expression through some practical means of attaining the object back of it. Therefore, I will devote 10 minutes daily to demanding of myself the development of self-confidence. Fourth, I've clearly written down a description of my definite chief aim, and I will always work until I develop sufficient self-confidence for its attainment. Fifth, I fully realize that wealth or position can long endure when built upon truth and justice. I will engage only in transactions that will benefit all whom it affects. I will succeed by attracting to myself the forces I wish to use in the cooperation of other people. I will induce others to serve me because of my willingness to serve them. I've eliminated hatred, envy, jealousy, selfishness, and cynicism, and I've developed a love for all of humanity. For I know that a positive attitude towards others will always bring me success. I will cause others to believe in me because I will believe in them and in myself. I will sign my name to this formula, commit it to memory, and repeat it aloud once a day in full faith that it will gradually influence my thoughts and actions so I'll become a self-reliant and successful person, GM. Perfect. Speaking of self-reliant, successful people, our next trainer on Takeoff Tuesday, Mr. Bill Predebon, has done just that. He became self-reliant through struggle, through hardship, through challenges, through never giving up. And he's one of those guys that swings for the fence. But before he got properly educated, he was swinging at the fence like a maniac, and almost went bankrupt. Almost lost it all. I had to start completely over. And here's one of the inspiring things that I want to remind everybody when we're out there marketing, talking to new people, and you see clearly they need help. Do not prejudge people. Bill made $17,000 the first year that he was introduced to our program. And people would prejudge that and say, oh, you don't make enough. You're not, you can't, blah, blah, blah. And he didn't listen. And he went for it. His first year, he closed over 10 deals, worked on hundreds and hundreds of deals now across the country, closed over 200 of them, made millions of dollars. He's done fix and flips, short-term rentals, long-term rentals, short sales, wholesaling, lease options, private money lending, land development, seller finance notes. Very well versed in tax, legal. He's been through it all. He's a fantastic negotiator. He's our newest instructor on new construction from the ground up. And we're very grateful to have him here today. So let's give a big warm welcome to Mr. Bill Predebon, GM from the garage.
Good morning.
Good morning.
What's happening?
Oh, solving problems left and right. How are you?
Not too bad.
Excellent.
Yep.
Excellent.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for the intro. It's
Were
awesome.
Yeah, man. What was your take on the Founders Live last night? And what are you working on this week? Also, if Celeste is here, she was going to tell us about the deal she was working on the other day with us. Yeah, tell us, what are you negotiating? What are you working on? What are you looking forward to by the end of the year?
Um, all right. Well, that's a lot. That's a lot to ask. Um, Welcome everybody. So yeah, I don't know if everybody, I do like to jump on. I don't catch as many invest edges. Well, I shouldn't say that. I mean, I probably caught one or two a month. I like the founders webinar. I like the concept better. Um, for the ICMs and the whole group of Renatus. I wasn't particularly fond of yesterday's you know, um, take it with a grain of salt. I think we're this is a marketing call with real estate flair, obviously, the way we've done it. A lot of times we jump into real estate whenever someone has a question, but we I definitely feel like the the best way to do real estate is through the marketing. It's always been, it's really a great combination. Um, there's so many natural and transitions with people, partnerships, money, relationships, deals, that sort of thing that come through the pipeline of the Renatus, cycle with marketing. So I think it's a good thing. Um, so I think it's important that, we stay in touch with some of the marketing tools like the founders webinar, staying on top of announcements and you know, timelines and new developments with Renatus, um, which are great, staying in touch with the CEO and things like that. I do think that um, I think it's important that marketing evolves with the times, and I don't necessarily agree with some of the old marketing tactics um, and strategies, at least not maybe at a $20,000 price point. So and I'm not a big Drive fan. So they really related a lot to Drive yesterday, and but that's I mean that's uh what they like and they feel is important. And it's not it's worked for many people using the Drive for converting sales. So whatever your choice is. Um, but I still think regardless of the topic, regardless of the content, the announcements are good, staying connected, having another weekly touch, if you will, to stay plugged into Renatus is important for all of us, for relationships, face to face, because real estate is based on that. And it's nice to have a community. And yeah, so that part's all good. That's my thought.
Cool.
You know, I um I do believe that, Christmas time, the holidays is a good time. Go ahead, Mike. Were you saying something?
No, sorry. I was just wanted to point out that even though you've been doing this for, almost 2 decades, you still show up to the coaching. And so I just wanted to acknowledge you for that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you too. Yeah, I guess it is 18 years. 2008, 2025, 17 years.
Wow. Yeah.
Um, I had a hiatus there for a while where I was doing my own coaching. Like from 2011 to 2017, I really wasn't involved with Renatus. Just kept my ICM status just for certain reasons. How it all changed. I wonder what it would have been cool. I had a lot of momentum going into 2011, but anyway, that's a whole nother story. Um, but yeah, it's good to have community and to be able to check in and stuff like that. So and I do like the relationships that I have from Renatus and that sort of thing. So I think that's positive. And again, that can transfer down to any of our prospects and clients. Um, so we can I graduated high school in 2011. No kidding.
Still wet behind the ears.
Boy, that is you are young. Good for you.
Got some young millionaires up in here.
2011. So you were 18. Wow. I graduated high school in 1987.
Nice.
Yeah, that's
Yeah. So maybe we should start calling you Grandpa Bill. No, I'm just kidding.
no, I got no kids, no grandkids. I don't feel 45 or
Dude, I
whatever.
was just telling Vanessa last night, I was like, I still feel like I'm 20. This is crazy. That I've been doing Renatus for 15 years.
Right. Yeah, time is something else. I'll tell you that. It's relentless. Yeah. All right. Um, where are we going with this? So yeah, if you guys and girls have any thoughts, comments, questions, to jump in. I think that um
I want to know your take on the Thanksgiving dinner approach because we heard Snyder's, we heard Jay's. I covered mine yesterday. Um, but yeah, like what do you recommend for new people if this is their first year and they're going to their family stuff? How to bring it up, whether they're trying to raise capital or sell education. Um, how would you go about it? How would you want your new people to do it? And then, of course, if you've already got experience, how do you add on to that?
well, mine probably isn't as positive. Um
That's okay, man.
right. I mean, I think there's definitely a time and a place I mean, obviously we're around friends and family for the holidays, but we're around friends and family for the holidays for a reason, and typically it's not business. Um, on the other side of the coin, we do care for friends and family. We want them to be successful. We want to help people. We want people to have, you know, the same opportunities that we have.
Right.
So it's a balance there, the right intentions, the right time. Um, again, I would qualify for the time, no matter if it's the holiday or not. Um, and and the other thing is, what am I thinking of? Um, I had a few thoughts. The first thing is that if you're excited about something and you truly are passionate and believe in something, there's never a bad time to bring it up, right? There's really not a bad way to bring it up. I think where there's a disconnect and an obstacle is we inherently know as in humans is that we are excited about it. We know it will help people, but we know that there's a cost to it. And we associate it as a cost. And we do this, at least I do this, right? I know that it's going to come across and there's no way around it that I'm asking them to pay for something and I'm going to benefit from it. And when we're excited about a movie or a diet or a doctor or a gym experience, a travel experience, we we share that freely with excitement and passion to our family, friends and family because we want them to we want to tell the story and we want them to have an opportunity to experience this as well. And there's nothing, we're not asking for anything in return. So it's very easy for us to give that information away. So if we could eliminate that, um, if we can eliminate that obstacle, then I think that the conversation would be more natural and it would be and it could lead to then a positive conversation follow-up in the future when they're ready to discuss it with you. So maybe I don't know. I don't have a lot of experience in it. I just think I don't think the Thanksgiving table is necessarily the place to do it. I think in gathering, if you're having a drink or you're out walking after the dinner, or there's some private time, not private, but like, downtime where you're just sitting next to somebody watching the football game or whatever it is, and you're having conversation and you're being pointed and you're asking questions, then, hopefully they ask you some questions and you can then share what you're doing. And if someone is truly interested in what it is you're doing, they might ask, and then you could tell a little bit more, or you could, even potentially, for lack of a better term, set an appointment to discuss it further, right? Hey, maybe I could call you, tomorrow or next week about it and really fill you in a little bit more because there's a lot to it. Um, and this, it's more of a business conversation than a casual family conversation. Oh, okay. You know what I mean? But, I guess you never know until you bring it up, what someone's going to be receptive to, what they're looking for, if the timing is right for them. It's impossible to know that unless you ask. Um, but I think if you're not concerned about being rejected, if you're not concerned about crossing what could be perceived as, you know, um, borders, where things aren't brought up at certain times, that this is family and vacation and holidays and it's not business, and you're not concerned with offending people, then there's nothing really wrong with bringing it up and being on purpose. And if that's your gift that you want to give and you want to bring to the table, then so be it. That there's nothing wrong with that either. Um, How can I watch these Monday to Wednesday as soon as I come back from day job? Life happens.
I'll get you the link.
Yeah, he'll get you that info. Just double checking. I thought I saw another message. Okay. So anyway, that's my take on the holiday thing. I haven't really experienced utilizing the holidays as an opportunity to sell the education of friends and family. Um, but honestly, I don't have a lot of friends and family that I brought into the community at all. Maybe one um, that I can think of.
Well, okay.
Yep.
I mean, I definitely get what you're saying. um, don't ever try to force a conversation because then you just end up ruining the reputation you're trying to build. So I definitely see what you're saying.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's
yeah.
I think that I believe that I definitely, my experience is that when we are marketing actively, that there is a purpose and there is an opportunity, and an extra $10,000 paycheck is very nice. Um, and then typically there's a relationship to be built and there's a resource there that you're bringing on board. Um, I think that, I've also decided or realized that there's a pretty big commitment to marketing Renatus full time as a marketer, taking your business, to a business level. And then you have to adapt, I think, with the times, you have to change, you have to have multiple marketing strategies, multiple lead sources. In the meantime, or the alternative is to just, do it on the side. It's a side hustle. You make 1 or 2 or 3 sales a year. You talk to a few people. The timing's right, and you get the right person at the right time. And you just introduce them to a concept, and they buy into it with very little, it doesn't take a lot of effort on your part other than sharing the information, getting them in front of the information, either one-on-one or through a link or through a webinar or whatever, and they make a decision on their own, and they don't need your help to make the decision. Possibly they need your help to fund it. But they're resourceful on their own, and they have resources of some sort. They just have to figure out which is the best one or how they can combine a couple. And they like options. The only way to increase that is to spend more time getting it in front of the right people at the right time. And so again, you have to trade your time for something else, or you have to systematize what it is you're doing, or you have to advertise or market. It's interesting that we don't teach any marketing or sales. I should say we don't teach any marketing or advertising. We teach how to sell, but sales is through marketing. I don't know. You need a closer on a high dollar ticket item. Like, if you think about a car, the advertisement on TV, billboards, just the auto dealership when you drive by, it's everywhere, right? It's something that people need. But much like a car, people need money, people need resources, they need financial freedom, they need to be able to retire, they need options, right? And so they're not necessarily actively looking because they don't know where to look. But if it was put in front of their face, they might pay attention to it. If you notice that, especially since 2011 crash, 2009 7 crash, the financial planners and the brokers, the stockbrokers of the world changed their entire dynamic, and they have a very personal, a very comfortable, and a very soft approach, relationship approach to marketing their brokerages. They've eliminated a lot of the fees they used to have. They probably seriously just transferred them somewhere else because they still make a lot of money. But I don't know how they got rid of the upfront broker fees first and second, right? Every time you buy or every time you sell. So people, that's their choice. They don't have a choice of self-directed IRAs being marketed to them on the TV. So where I'm going with this is, when you see this, then they make a phone call, and there's a lot of money involved, right? Now, there's not a lot of money to move your money over there, but there's a lot of choices as to where to go to get your car, where to go to get your financial advice. And a lot of times they don't really ask the questions on how much it costs because they don't know what questions ask and how it works. But they definitely want to meet with someone and feel comfortable that those people can say the right things and lie to them enough that they'll feel comfortable that they're going to be able to manage their money better than anybody else. And with the car, the person most likely has an idea of what brand they want. Then they get to that brand, and then they pretty much know, for the most part, which model they want because they saw it on TV, or they talked to somebody, they've seen someone drive it, They see it around town. They like the way it looks. And then they need a salesperson. And when you walk on the floor, whoever comes up to you first gets you, right? Unless you have a car dealer, a car person that you buy from all the time. So that person most of the time is new. It's a pretty big turnover, right? And I think a lot of the people that make a lot of money in car sales, they've been doing it a while, and they have a steady clientele, and they have a referral business, and they hardly have time for ups. They call it ups, right? Who's got next ups when someone walks up on the lot? Those people are new. They have no business established, and so you get what you get. But basically, all they have to do is kind of answer a few questions. Most of the time, they don't know the answers to all the questions you're asking, and they get someone else to help them. And then it's just finding you the right car that looks the right color, and that's it, right? But there's marketing to get you there. You've kind of made a decision to spend 25 or 50 or 30 or whatever $1,000, or if you're on a used lot, you're spending less than 20, and you're going to buy a car and you know what it's for. And so, if a good car salesman there and you're looking for a certain car and they don't have it, then they sell you on something that's similar and they still close you, right? But anyway, I just think that we have to consider marketing instead of sales, and that we have to get the information in front of the people that are willing to accept it and are looking for it, and then just need someone to close them, versus always trying to fight the battle, if that makes sense. I am in pre-launch using Go High Level. Oh yeah. Anyone that is interested, contact me. Okay, cool. Go ahead, Anthony.
Yeah, well, I agree with a lot of the things you've said. The only thing that I would look at is that I wouldn't look at immediately the high ticket. For me, if I'm sitting at the Thanksgiving table and I can save somebody that I know the money on the mortgage, that is something like it's a no-brainer. That investment, the exchange for value, totally makes sense. I'm not necessarily going to teach them and try and convince them to become a real estate investor. The next one is obviously if I can save them money on their taxes, that they're going to make more money by taking the education and reclaiming the taxes, then again, it's a no-brainer. Like, why wouldn't you do that? So after you've done that, because of the big, beautiful bill, obviously, if they're in a W-2 situation, the best thing that they can do is buy a property, because then they can write off and amortize the entire amount, which by default kind of makes them a real estate investor. So without trying to get them into the 20 grand, 30 grand scenario, I would just look at how do I help them with those two issues. And if I can't help them with those two issues, and they're still interested in, Anthony, what you're up to, oh shit, you're doing real estate. That's fantastic. Tell me more about it. Or just walk away. That's how I would personally look at it, because then it's not a cost per se for that family member. And you can always give them back the money if you feel guilty, for lack of a better word, that you're taking money. I mean, if I'm a car sales guy, and I'm glad that you looked at that analogy, but if I'm a car sales guy and I've got a great car on the lot, and I know that he's looking for a car, and I'm gonna, Uncle Bill, you should come check this GTI out that we've got. I can do a deal for you. The normal price is $2 grand or 20 grand or 200,000, whatever. Pick a number. But because I work there, I can always give you back X amount. That's just a potential approach. It would be my 2 cents.
Yeah, and I do believe what you're saying. If you can save them money on taxes and do velocity banking and that sort of thing, save them money on interest, and that's true. What's interesting is, like, with the car salesperson, it's funny when I always ask when I talk to someone in car sales what they drive. And it's funny because on high-end lots, none of the car salesmen drive the high-end car, right? Unless they're an older person and they've been around the block and they've either taken the chance and they bought a used older model of the car that they sell, right? That there's a saying in The Fugitive, and they're in the courtroom where the jail is in the city building, and they're running around and they were going to go up the elevator, and the guy goes, "Oh, it's kind of hanky," right? And Lee, uh, what's his damn name? Great actor. The captain, he's like, "What's hanky?" He's like, it's like weird. It's like it's hanky. He's like, then just say weird. It's it's weird. It's hanky if you're sitting at the table and you're broke as hell, or you are just getting started, or you're young, right? Michael was talking about new people, right? You're not saving money in taxes or doing velocity banking yourself. And you're like, I can save you money in taxes, right? I have something for you. And so coming from somebody who is not in a position, right? It's it's it it's hanky, right? It's people are looking at you like, what are you talking about? Like, what do you know about taxes, right? When we go to a tax professional, we expect them and most people with their finance, number one is it's taboo, right? And so ta finances being taboo means people don't talk about it. They're not talking about who's their accountant. They're not talking about how much money they paid in taxes, because it's always the wrong answer. If they're paying a lot in taxes, then they're probably making more money than they want people to know about. If they're not paying anything in taxes, then they're not making any money, right? And so there's a perception of disclosing information about somebody that they don't want to do, right? And it also goes to the point that they're doing something wrong. If they need to save money on interest or taxes, they're doing something wrong. Now, when it's their decision, when they're out seeking information to do this, it's one thing. But when a family member is trying to tell them how to, it's different if, and
Look, if I could just come in there, I think
yeah,
something that you're touching on there that is very important. It's the word that you're not the coach. You're not actually doing this. I would use two things. If it was me and I was pitching it, and the idea is not to pitch to a family member. It really isn't. But I would rather use the word, Uncle Bill, I'm curious. When I start to earn money, do you think this would make sense to me? Would you take a look at it? They're talking about this guy that's in front of the room that can save 20 grand. Not me. I'm not the expert. I'm not saving the money. But Uncle Bill, when I get to that level, do you think this is something I should invest in? That's that's the script that I hate using this word script again, because we're not trying to pitch to family members. But at the end of the day, you also don't want to screw up the relationship. So you got to think about what you're saying. So I guess it's scripting. So I would rather use that. I'm curious. And then pitch his curiosity to say, well, what's this about? And then get his opinion. Ask for his opinion. Would you take a look at this for me? That's how I would present it if I was speaking to a family member.
yeah,
Because
I don't disagree with that.
from the bottom of my heart, I want to help them. I you know.
I don't disagree with that. Yep. That's a good approach. I think, yeah. I mean, ultimately, if we don't introduce it to them, then they don't even have an option to turn it down. And the whatever I think that you're comfortable, however you're comfortable introducing it to them would be the way to do it. I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah,
Hey,
no, those are,
hey, Bill.
yeah,
Steve here. I think one of the things I could think about this is, whenever you introduce something, it's always harder because then the first impression is what's in it for you. That's what they're thinking about. Because if there's nothing in it for you, why would you even bother with that conversation? But I think the approach should primarily be curious about their life, what's going on with them, and then if it makes sense to introduce it based on something they have going on, or finding out, if they're looking for an opportunity, or maybe they have other challenges. If there's any way it makes sense, then that conversation will come up naturally because you are curious about them. Asking questions, asking right questions as far as like, hey, what you've been up to, how's life, things like that. I think being curious about what's going on in their life, because you probably spend most of your life without even the whole year without connecting as much. So I think that's the time to, utilize some of the skills we've learned and be curious about what's going on in their life. And if it makes sense, let the conversation flow naturally.
Yeah, that's a great point. We don't spend much time with them the rest of the year. The holidays are where we reconnect, and to be interested in what they're doing genuinely is important. Make the conversation about them, and if the opportunity presents itself, I don't disagree. That's a great point. I don't think there's a wrong way to do the holidays. Um, and when you think back to some of the folks that truly make a lot of money in this company on the sales thing, that there is a true, when the belief is so deep in the company and the product and the service, and that people need this information, and that you're generally helping people and you're doing them a favor, then there's really no wrong way to approach them with it. And a lot of times they're not ready to hear it, or you didn't say it the way that they were willing to listen to it. And so be it, but at least the conversation is started, and you can follow up with that conversation later. Um, so I agree with you, Anthony, and Steve. That was great points, for sure, to bring it up. Yep. Anybody else have any experience with the holidays in the family, or I think for me, the holidays are important. I don't take necessarily time off. I think there's days that hopefully, and I probably didn't do well in the past, where you just pay entirely attention to your family and friends and your own personal family, and your own self, and you put the phone away, forget about whatever it is that is work related for the time being, until it's not the whole week or anything like that necessarily, but at least for the time that you're with family that you're not with very often, maybe time to reset. I think it's definitely time to double check what you want to do next year. I think writing down any type of um I don't know, lack of a better term, goals, and where you want to be and what you want to accomplish the next year. And then also um even Thanksgiving, we have, it's on a Thursday, so you always get kind of a 4-day weekend there. The work week's short, so you're kind of, by Tuesday or Wednesday, you're kind of taking work off anyway, or you're at work but you're not really working, and everybody's having holiday parties. And so um I think it's important time to reflect on the year, on what you did accomplish, and reassess what it is you thought you wanted versus what you really want to do. And you know and you know
So,
yeah, go ahead.
just one more thing, sorry. Just looping back to Michael's beginning of this conversation with the self-confidence formula. If you carry yourself in that time that you're with them and you're not even pitching them and you're not talking about it, but you're so oozing of self-confidence, that will pique their curiosity to ask why, what happened. Last time I saw you, you were like this, and now you like that. So that's also a different approach. You know, if you're bubbling with energy and enthusiasm and self-confidence, that's something that's evident. And Uncle Bill's going to go, "Hey, Connor, why are you so bubbly? You know, what's going on?" And then let them open the door, rather than you trying to think about pitching them. And then it will probably also come more naturally. Just something else that popped in my head.
Yeah. I mean, I think I understand what you're saying. I don't know that I've experienced anything like that. I mean, I guess along the same lines, like I was saying, if you're truly passionate about something and you want to share, oh my God, and you're just, but I can't say that I don't know.
I'm talking about a young person in general, not necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if people have transformed a little bit, and they've changed the way they look or dress, that's usually a little bit more time. And then, but yeah, um, if you're no longer depressed and you're no longer down and you're no longer quiet and all of a sudden you're full of life and obviously something's changed, then yeah, they might ask what's changed, but they're asking because they're complimenting you and they've noticed something, not because they're interested in what you're doing. But all the above, I guess. Drinking the Kool-Aid, yeah. Um, agreed. Agreed. Um, let's see what else. Anybody else got
The one
thoughts
thing
on
that
this?
helped
You
me with the last one was waiting for the other person to bring up money. Money almost always comes up at least one sentence, right? Where they're like, "Oh, well, there's not enough," or "Oh, I wish," or something like that. And then I turned to him and I was like, "Really? I mean, if you want more money, that you got to get into real estate." And then I just kind of left it at that. A few minutes later, he came back and asked me some more, and then that's when we started talking about this RV park. He's an electrician, and I was just thinking, well, you know, if you want to come look at this project, he's like, I don't have any money. I don't have any money. And then, like what you were saying, Bill, set another appointment because it was a dinner thing. Our kids were getting along, the wives were getting along. In almost every room in my house, but I'm not trying to do a presentation yet. And he kept saying, I don't have money. I don't have money. So a few days later, he comes over to the barn door, and I say, all right, what do you mean you don't have money? You're an electrician. How do you not have any money? We started, and I did a follow up, those funding follow ups, but he has no idea about Renatus packages, nothing. But I just started going over, credit, equity, debt. What are all your things? And he had such a misunderstanding about credit card payments. He was putting every penny of discretionary income back onto his credit card that was 0% interest. And when I said, well, hey, don't you have this over here, this project over here, over here that you need capital for? Why are you putting it back to Visa at 0%? And he had such an eye-opening experience there. He messaged me the next day, said, thank you very much. And now I might have access to all that credit. Right? He's got 50 grand in credit that he's not using. And I'm like, well, hey, this project only needs about 60,000 to finish. So to Bill's point earlier, I just waited for one sentence where he said something about there's not enough money going around. And then I set another appointment from there. So, I'm still getting to know the guy, but our wives are good friends, so it's working out. But make the best of it while they're there, because my whole idea was make an impression on him, not just get his money, not finish my deal, but a we thing. How can we prosper? So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, for sure. Again, I do believe it's true that, you know, for the right person at the right time, you can't say anything wrong. Um, and they're looking for it. I mean, you've heard that a million times in Renata's testimonies. You know, this is exactly what I've been looking for. Michael mentioned a story yesterday of the girl that did that. And you know, and unfortunately that's where it goes back to Michael's stupid little quirky thing where he says talk to more people on some wacky video. And you know, because not everybody's going to be in that position. So the problem is we just don't talk to enough people to get those types of people all the time. But when it comes to friends and family and being at the holidays, uh, no, it was pretty funny. Uh, it definitely was a subtle point, but you know, there we are doing it out of, you know, love and respect and we generally wish that we could help them see what we see. So,
Mhm.
you know, I guess to be honest, if you don't bring it up, that's the old school way of families doing things is just keeping their finances and their, you know, and their skill sets and their the things that they do in their world, you know what I mean, to themselves, you know. I mean, if I had a rich uncle or a rich father or rich, you know, whatever, I truly want them to help me. You know, if I had someone who traveled the world all the time and I would love them to take me with them and share with me how I could travel the world all the time. You know what I mean? I would rather not be, you know, I would rather not just have to wait for a handout and always be curious of what they do and how they did it. And, you know, and it'd be taboo to talk to them about it, right? So, um, I guess at the end of the day, whatever approach you can use to break the ice, you know,
Yeah.
it's it's probably worth it. And who knows, maybe you could just set an appointment if it's not the appropriate time or it didn't come across the right way. Yeah, it is crazy. It is
Hey,
crazy.
Bill, since you
Yeah.
were talking about reflection, what is one of the biggest lessons you've learned looking back through this year that, you know, you in that moment wasn't thinking about it, but now having a chance to look back and you're like, wow, this was worth it for the year for me. What would be one of those things?
I think in business and in real estate and in relationships, not necessarily personal relationships, um, typically your typically the instinct is to make it work, fix it, um, give it more time, give it a second chance. Um, and I think your first instinct is probably correct. And that when something isn't working or isn't right, you should nip it in the bud. You should cut them at the knees. Um, if somebody doesn't pay you rent, you serve them a 5-day notice. If a contractor doesn't show up, you fucking fire them. We tend to try to do things because money is involved and we need the money. So we let them continue to have a second and third chance. Um, if and you know when something goes wrong, there you can work it out, but and you can give someone a second chance, but there it comes with consequences. Um, and I contradicted myself there, but what I mean is, I mean, if you lent money or you borrowed money, money is not there. There's always an opportunity to renegotiate the term, right? But as a lender or even a borrower, there's if it's set up front, what happens at each point when there is a breach of contract, then and it's already known ahead of time, which we don't predict, uh, then it's easy. There's no guesswork, right? There's a late fee, there's a penalty. This is the deal, and this is the progression of how it works. So anyway, I would say that, you know, um, one of the things I would do differently is drop the hammer far more quickly, right? Um, and then let's see, teach the man how to fish or show them where to learn to fish, not just give them a fish. Yeah, for sure. Um, and then on a good note, I would say don't underestimate what you're capable of. I think that when the going gets tough, the tough get going. I think that, that's a time that we have a Renatus people that have spent the money and invested in themselves, and Renatus have the ability to overcome. You have the ability to be resourceful. You have the ability to really be creative in solving problems. And we definitely have the ability um, to generate, right? To do more than we think we're capable of, when it comes to raising capital, buying businesses, doing deals, going without sleep, working longer hours, you know, um, asking somebody we're uncomfortable asking something for, whether it's to join Renatus or look at Renatus, or whether it's to borrow, lend money, or those types of things. So I think that, um, on a positive note would be to, really trust that you're capable of a lot more than you're doing. Um, and that, that there's no reason, whatever it is you desire, whether it's just as simple as financially or in wealth and success, that there should be no reason why you can't do it, even though it's hard, right? And it's not, it's not overnight. Um, it takes time. It takes sacrifice. A lot of times it takes mistakes, and it takes even losing money before you make money. Um, but understand that you know, that's all part of it. And if you truly want it, you can obtain it, I think. And that you can overcome it. Yep. Those two things. Good thoughts, good question. If anybody else has a reflection on the year and wants to expand on that, feel free. I like the hammers, like the axe.
Yeah, I think that's a great lesson. I think you said it well, because we want to be nice. I mean, that's one reason why we're even in this community, is we're nice people and want to be generous and give people opportunities. But if you do it wrong, then the hammer drops on your toe, right? Then you're just limping around. So yeah, I appreciate that too. Um, that insight there, Bill. That's some good stuff. I can think back earlier this year on a situation of where I should have fired the guy sooner.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's hard. I mean, and again, there's no wrong decisions. There's no there's no wrong thing that we did if we didn't fire him right away. We chose that choice was the right choice at the right time. But what I've found is that business is business. I think successful, business people that are there's a time to be charitable, right? And that's when you've been successful and you've gone through what you've gone through. And most of us see business people as rich and wealthy and spoiled and 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 pretentious and materialistic, right? Because they drive a nice car, whatever it is. But um the reality is we have no idea what it took to get there, right? And I think that successful business people decide not to be charitable while they're climbing the ladder, while they're working towards their goals, when they want to get to where they want to go. Otherwise, the people are just pulling them down. They're constantly giving out money and losing money and wasting money and time to to be nice to all these people, right? That's why people are like, oh, he's a shrewd, she's a mean person, she's a bitch, she's a, what, a lady boss, whatever, and there's nothing wrong with being nice and there's nothing wrong with being charitable, but obviously while you're moving forward, but at the same time, you know, directly in business, I picture movies all the time when I'm going through this and thinking about this, or I picture New York and Wall Street and I picture people they don't take no for an answer, and then they don't they don't they don't want to be with people that are going to cost them money. They don't want to spend time with people that are going to cost them lawsuits. They don't want to spend time with people that are going to waste their time. They catch, like, most of us know it right away, but we just hold on to it. And and we mix business with pleasure. Um, and I don't feel like they do that. I think they're much more cutthroat. I don't think the sharks are TV, but they're billionaires for a reason. Um, they're not billionaires because they spent their life being nice to everybody.
I think expanding on that, I have a nice saying that just popped into my head that charity should be by choice, not by somebody pulling on your heartstrings. Right? If you want to be charitable, it shouldn't be because somebody's abusing and using your nature. It should be because you chose to do that.
Yeah, Aubrey, sorry, you're right. You're right, Anthony. I don't mean don't give back. I don't mean, you give to the church, you pay it forward or pay it backwards at Starbucks. You donate whatever I over tip. That's not what I'm talking about.
No, I agree. No, I got your message. It did come through correct.
Yeah, no, Aubrey put a comment in here. There's no question that we give when we don't have, and we share when we don't have time. Um, and I think Renatus is the epitome of that. Um, what I mean is, uh, I'm talking specifically when it comes, like, if you're doing a fix and flip and someone screws it up and then you give them another chance and it takes them a week to get it done and then you've had to pay for more material, right? Do it to me once, shame on me, right? But there's a time when you there's not even a time. The time should be that they were paid to do a job and they didn't do it, and that's what I mean by charity. We're bringing people along. I'm talking about charity when it comes to um, not necessarily employees, but 1099 people, businesses, partners, um, certain relationships, not necessarily personal relationships that cost you time and money. And even so on and so forth. Some of us, in particular, worst cases of bad relationships where, you know, there's that one good piece, when things are normal, when they're not doing this or they're not doing that, or things are right, then everything's fine with that person. But you know, we fight for that for so long, and we spend so much time and energy trying to get that one time where the relationship is good when the majority of it's bad. I don't want to get. I'm not a therapist. I'm not getting into relationships, but what I mean is business charity, where when I'm saying charity, I mean working with, and I know you understand this now, but I mean working with, constantly giving people second chances that are working with you, working for you, doing deals with you. Like it's kind of like you're out there working for you're a wholesaler, and you're reverse wholesaling. You're working for a client, um, and you constantly send him these properties because he keeps telling you, or she keeps telling you that, hey, I'm looking for a property, a 3 bedroom, and you go out and do this work, and then they don't buy it. And you're like, what's wrong with it? It's, oh, well, it doesn't have this, or you know what? It's in the wrong area. And you're like, so you're wasting all this time. It's like, drop that person. They're no longer on your list, but we keep working for them. That's the kind of charity I'm talking about, where we're hoping and praying that it's going to turn out versus making it turn out and doing it ourselves. That makes sense. That's the type of charity I would definitely, yeah, don't, So, but I know you're a good person, and Nate, and as are most people on our calls, and I 100% agree. I mean, there's nothing better than giving, especially during the holidays when you have nothing, and people have no idea that you're struggling and you have nothing, and yet you're, I don't know, paying for the groceries at the grocery store, or you're, paying off a layaway, or just giving at a charity event that you really don't have money to give at. So I get it. Those are different, two different things. Yep. Yep. Right on. All right. I have a meeting at 10. If there's not any more thoughts, comments, or questions, I have to drive over to an appointment. Speaking of charity, um, I'm in a lawsuit of my life that I've never been in before. It's over $1 million now, and I'm going to meet a guy who's gonna works for my attorney, who is going to substantiate. He's a professional, almost like a professional witness, if you will, who's going to substantiate the cost margin of the errors in the project. But this is a true example of me sticking with this guy for I should have eliminated this contractor years before I even started this project. And it thought it would never happen to me after it happened to so many people, and there it is. So that's what I'm talking about, because it's not worth the lawsuit. Like, the lawsuit's worth it, but it's not worth the lawsuit. I mean, I should have just paid more money and gone with my instinct and listened to my wife when it came to this guy than dealing with this. And this probably isn't going to end soon. And it's extraordinarily costly. Yep. Yeah.
Well, you're a strong
I'm
man, and
finished.
you're a great example of going through hard times and making the best of it.
What's that, Anthony?
I'm finished with my shirt. You can take it. I've been there, done that. Got the
Yep.
T-shirt.
Well, the good news is I'm the plaintiff.
Yeah, so was I. So was I. And
Right.
it just cost me money after money after money. It's
Yeah.
just sickening. The only person that made money at the end was the lawyers.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, at least, fortunately, he's collectible. I mean, I highly doubt well, knock on wood. I mean, it's very unlikely that I'll lose the case, but it's still a long road, and once you win, you
Well,
still
best
got to
of luck,
collect.
Bill.
Yeah.
Best of luck, my friend.
So, what would you do if he wasn't collecting?
I wouldn't have sued him.
Then you would have found a different friend.
Yeah. I probably would have worked on ways to make his life miserable, perhaps, but otherwise I would have chalked it up as a loss. Yep. You got to consider that when you're working with certain people. Like, this was the other thing is with licensed contractors in every state, there is E&O, right? And there's a fund with that particular register of contractors. So that's another avenue that the public has as a defense to being taken advantage by contractors, is they can go to the ROC, the ROC has a fund, and you can get reimbursed from the city or the county or the state, in every state. But it's an effort. It's a lot of work, but it can be done, and it's there for that. And every licensed contractor pays into it. And so that's what you do if you don't have a collectible contractor.
Good to know. Learning every day.
Yep.
And that's applicable as even though you're not a consumer, you're actually a business B2B. As
Say that again.
Is that still applicable even though you're not a consumer retailer? You're a B2B.
Yeah, as long as you've got a contract with them, as long as you have written contracts, yeah. Even though we're B2B, he's still a general contractor. And even if they're a subcontractor and they're licensed, like an electrician or a plumber or something like that, and they don't come back and fix it, or they take, they do it badly or whatever, then you can go after the E&O on that license. As long as they're licensed. And if they're not licensed, then that's up to you. Then you're stuck with it. But yeah.
One of the things I had is that we try to go after them on the Consumer Protection Act, and the gray line was whether I was a consumer. There had to be enough of me that were abused, and they were to put them together to make it a consumer versus a business to business. Got a little gray on all of that, and that's why it cost me lots of money, because the attorney initially told me we'll do this under the CPA, and it won't cost you any money, but you just got to put down a 10 grand deposit, which became 45 grand, which became 60 grand. Yeah, and that was thanks for coming. Goodbye. 150 grand in legal fees later.
Right.
Anyway. I just share this because there's other people on the line. Hopefully they learn from it.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And folks, that you guys appreciate that. That people like Anthony and Bill don't have to be here. They like being here. They like contributing. And so as we wander through these conversations week after week and find gold nuggets, to remember that we get to experience other people's 2, 3, 5 to 10 years of a mess in an afternoon and learn from that, even though you might not be planning on learning about how to be a plaintiff in a court case today. That wasn't part of our plan. It's still showing up, and it's still something valuable to use and to think about planning for your better future. So I appreciate you guys making these deposits, and like Aubrey said here, thanks for sharing your wins and your losses. It makes it a lot more real for us. So
yeah. And the cool thing is we can take this to our prospects, right? You can, this is a conversation you can have with a family member and be like, oh my God, I was on this call and, we got to talk about this, that, and the other thing. And that's valuable. And then, that's genuine. And it's true. I mean, this, it's hard to find this type of information. So, all right. Off to the races.
Awesome.
Happy holidays,
you guys.
everybody.
Have a wonderful day. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.
Love you guys.
Thanksgiving,
Thanks, everybody.